Hi everyone, my name's Joe from Homegrown Musician and welcome back to another video. So I've made a fair few videos at this point, and if you've seen any of them, you might notice that I play the electric guitar. Now, I definitely consider myself an electric player as opposed to an acoustic player, but if a gig comes up or I write something that needs the acoustic, I'll be more than happy to get by on one. Well, more to the point, I'll steal my sister's because I don't actually own one, but you know, that's just details. So the acoustic guitar is probably the most iconic instrument of all time. Musicians, non-musicians, young, old, doesn't matter, nearly everybody knows what they are because of how widespread and widely used they are. They're pretty cheap, they're portable, they're accessible to play, they're just the ideal instrument for start-up and bedroom musicians alike. So, most modern instruments, like this one, come with electronics built into them so you can record them really easily at home and use them on the stage. Basically, all you do, plug it in the bottom and record it DI into your interface. Dead simple recording and really easy to do. The only issue is most DI signals are pretty flat, a bit lifeless, and they just don't sound the same as an acoustic guitar that's been properly mic'd up. So in today's episode, I'll show you 3 easy ways to mic up an acoustic guitar at home. So the first technique we'll be looking at is close miking. So the core idea behind close miking is actually fairly self-explanatory. You get a directional microphone, find the main sound source of the instrument, get relatively close to it and point it in that direction so you have a clean and direct signal. So obviously in this case we're specifically talking about miking up an acoustic guitar, and there are still a few things to think about, so we'll just go through those now. So like I said, you'll want to use a directional microphone, so you'll need to look for something with what's known as a cardioid pickup pattern. All a pickup pattern is the area in which the microphone picks up sound, and the cardioid pickup pattern means the microphone will pick up whatever's put in front of it. Also, I'd recommend using a large diaphragm condenser as they're typically quite sensitive and they'll pick up all the nuances of the instrument and give you a nice, rich sound. However, that doesn't mean that you can't get good results with other kinds of microphones like dynamic mics or small diaphragm condensers. So when close micing acoustic guitars, I'll typically go from one of two directions, either at the bottom of the instrument pointing towards the bridge, or up at the neck pointing towards the sound hole. Now obviously each instrument is different and you'll have to experiment when miking up, but I typically find these two locations to be the best starting points. Up at the neck, you'll probably get a slightly more detailed sound as you'll get some more of the strum in hand, whereas down at the bridge, you'll probably get a warmer, more rounded sound. So let's hear how close miking with one microphone sounds. So the next miking technique is the XY pair. So to make an XY pair, you'll need a pair of cardioid microphones, ideally the same model, and you'll need to put their capsules on top of one another at a 90-degree angle as shown. Now you can do this technique using 2 microphone stands, but it's much easier if you've got a stereo bar because it means you'll only need one instead. Now I have actually seen and used a variation of this technique, where instead of putting the capsules on top of one another, you put them to the side of each other instead, but you still maintain that 90-degree angle, and to be honest, it actually has a fairly similar result, so I guess it's just a personal preference. So when miking up your acoustic guitar, use the in-between point of both capsules as your aiming reference. Now it does feel a little bit counterintuitive because it feels like you're using neither the left or the right microphone, but if you aim them properly, you'll get one that points slightly towards the bridge and one that points slightly towards the neck, so when you sum them together in a DAW afterwards, you get a really nice, well-balanced sound. Another great advantage of the XY pair is that although the stereo image isn't that wide because the capsules are basically on top of each other, you also get next to no phase cancellation, which means it sounds great coming through things like single mono speakers or phones. Now, when panning the microphones afterwards in a DAW, think about it from an audience perspective, and the microphone that was pointing towards the left of the guitar, you pan hard left, and the microphone that was pointing to the right of the guitar, you pan hard right. Now, let's see how the XY pair sounds. So our final microphone technique is the spaced pair. So just like the XY pair, the stereo pair uses two cardioid microphones, ideally of the same model. However, unlike the XY pair, instead of having the capsule set on top of one another, the name implies they're spaced apart, which means it's just as easy to use large microphones like large diaphragm condensers as it is to use smaller microphones like small diaphragm condensers. However, with this technique, you will almost definitely need two microphone stands because again, the microphones are spaced apart this time. So when miking up an acoustic guitar with the spaced pair, you'll approach it from two different directions. Normally, one microphone at the bottom of the guitar pointing towards the bridge and one up at the neck pointing towards the sound hole, just like when we were close miking it. So one of the biggest advantages of the spaced pair is it sounds much wider than any of the other microphone techniques I've shown you thus far in the video, because obviously we're using two widely spaced microphones to pick up one mono sound. However, it can suffer from phase cancellation, which means if done improperly, certain frequencies will be cancelled out when you play it through a mono speaker, for example like a phone or a small Bluetooth speaker, and it probably won't sound as big or as wide as if you played it through a pair of headphones or a pair of spaced stereo speakers. So you'll never be able to fully remove phase cancellation entirely, but one way of reducing it is by using the 3-to-1 rule. So the 3-to-1 rule works as follows. The distance between the two spaced microphones needs to be at least 3 times that of the distance between the mics and the guitar itself. If you want to think about it algebraically, if the distance between the mics and the guitar is x, then the distance between the two mics needs to be at least 3x. So let's hear how a spaced pair sounds. So that's 3 easy ways of recording acoustic guitars at home. So obviously in this video I've given you the basic tools that you'll need to set up these techniques for yourself, but I cannot recommend enough just experimenting and messing about with them, because the more you do that, the more familiar they'll become and you'll be able to get better sounding results quicker. So if you enjoyed today's video or you learned something new, please leave a comment below and tell me about it, and feel free to like, share and subscribe as it massively helps the channel.